The 2024 Ohio State Buckeyes defense was one of the best in the country, one of the best of all time, but they're going to lose a ton of guys, losing 8 total players, 8 total starters from that defensive group. They're going to have to replace them all. Today on the Buckeye Breakdown podcast, we look at each position group and give our choices on who's going to be filling those spots for Ohio State in 2025. Buckle up, and we'll bring it to you next on the Ohio State Buckeyes on SI.
We've got the whole crew together as we cover Ohio State with our instant analysis from Ohio State.
There's something that doesn't feel right.
Unbelievable effort from him today. Is E.J. Liddell going to crack the first team All Big Ten?
I think he can be the guy. I'm not trying to start a quarterback controversy.
He seems to have the durability. He certainly has the toughness. This is the question on a lot of people's minds here. Welcome to Buckeye Breakdown.
Welcome in, everybody, to another episode of the Buckeye Breakdown podcast. Anthony Moeglin, alongside my partner and former Ohio State Buckeye, Kevin Woidke. And Kevin, didn't tell you I was going to do this, but the sun is out. The sun is shining. It feels like spring has sprung in Cleveland, Ohio. I know that's where both of us are at. Do you have the golf clubs clean, and when is the first time that you're getting out on the course?
Don't have them cleaned yet. Got a busy next few weeks, so it'll be interesting if I can squeeze 9 in after work one day. But so far, nothing on the docket. Earliest club swinging will probably be happening in April.
Oh, well, man, I can't wait. Got mine cleaned up the other day. I'm hitting the links on Saturday afternoon, so it's gonna be fun. It's nice always when the weather starts to turn. We spring the clocks forward, and it's and vibes are starting to get good as we head into the springtime and the summertime. And for the Ohio State Buckeyes, Kev, they are heading into spring ball. Right, spring break is happening right now. Guys are out of town doing some traveling. I hope. Staying out of trouble, getting ready to go. But as you're seeing this kind of throughout all of college football, I know there's a number of colleges that started their spring practices. Within the past week, I saw Tennessee was out at the practice field. Pitt was out at the practice field. West Virginia, and I'm sure there's many, many more that have gotten their off seasons kicked off. But we've said it 100 times. We won't say it again. Well, I will say it again right here. Ohio State's the length of their season last year led to them being able to delay the start of their spring ball, so they'll start it coming next week. And Kev, coming into next week, we spent all week last week talking about how the offense for Ohio State is going to look a little bit different, but the defense is going to look completely different. They're losing 8 starters from last year's team and 8 players who, are going to be high draft picks. Like all of them went to the combine. Like every single one of them was at the NFL combine. You're going to lose a couple depth pieces as well. So it's going to be really important for Ohio State, for the young guys who got their chance to play. There's a number of them that we're going to talk about here this evening, that they step up, but also some fresh faces and some new guys. But a couple of the veterans that are going to lead the way, Kev, Caleb Downs in the secondary, and Sonny Styles at the linebacker level are going to be so big for this Ohio State Buckeyes team.
Yeah, I mean, they really are. I mean, they're going to need to be. They got to be the leaders. They have to be who these guys look to, who these guys lean on when the game gets rough, because it will get rough. I mean, think about that Penn State goal line stand. I mean, that isn't easy. It's not a place you want to be. That's for sure. So it'll be interesting to see how these two young. I mean, Sonny is older, but Caleb being his 3rd year. I mean, people said he could have been a captain his freshman year at Alabama, but. It's just I'm excited to see what we can pull out with this defense, because they do have some very, very big shoes to fill. Losing Tyleek, losing Jack Sawyer, losing JTT, losing Cody Simon, purely from a leadership standpoint.
Yeah, that's the big one to me, man, is like you can fix, people are going to make tackles, you're going to make sacks, there's going to be interceptions, there's going to be all that stuff. That stuff will come. But the stuff that's irreplaceable or priceless, as they say, is the leadership. Some of the, the guys that you're going to be losing, Lathan Ransom, like bled scarlet and gray. Cody Simon was like scarlet and gray. Jack Sawyer, JT, like all those guys, and it's so rare in today's game that and in today's college atmosphere that you get guys staying for for more than 2-3 years, right? This was a group of guys who was together for a long time. They knew what it meant to be a Buckeye. They knew what it meant to have pride in the program. And it's going to be really big shoes to fill. As you said, you put it perfectly. You put it perfectly there. And that first group, the one that's most important, Kevin, I think it starts up front. And it always does start in the trenches. And you kind of touched on it. You're going to be resetting your entire front four. Jack gone, JT gone, Ty and Tyleek, all of them are gone. The good part is those four were so good last year, and this defense was so good last year that the guys coming behind them have gotten plenty of playing time, and they're not going to be surprised or shocked by the moments that they find themselves in.
No, I mean, Caden Curry played a lot. Milton, one of the two, played a lot. I mean, Jaden McDonald played a good amount. You had Eddie Smith. You had Eddie Smith. I mean, you just had a ton of good players. And then, I mean, you got some new kids coming in. I mean, it's going to be a very – I was watching them move around when I was at the facility a couple weeks ago. They're not unathletic, that's for sure. And they're not small. So it'll be fun to watch these guys who are young and give them a year, give them 6 months with Coach Mick. Look out.
Yeah. Yeah, and some of those names, right? Kenyatta Jackson's the big one. He stands out amongst the rest on a guy who just totally looks the part, right? He's long, he's got crazy long arms. He stands 6'6", I believe, 6'6", 6'7", and just can be a terror on the edges. And then up front, in the middle, Edric Houston, Logan George. Edric Houston's the name that I kind of have circled on my, that I'll be watching closely as spring ball starts, because he was such a highly touted guy coming out of high school, and it was shocking when Ohio State was able to flip him. He's from the South, but when Ohio State was able to flip him from Georgia to Ohio State, it was a huge thing for the Ohio State defense. And so those two guys you certainly will have circled there. And then, like you said, Caden Curry feels like he's been just waiting on his opportunity to represent the Ohio State Buckeyes. Now, one guy that I think is going to be interesting, and it's a guy that I think Matt Patricia is going to try to use in a number of different ways, because we're not quite sure how what the base is going to be for a Matt Patricia defense. He hasn't done it in college, right? In the pros, you're really just multiple, right? Whatever the game plan calls for is what you line up in, whether that's an odd front, a 3-4 base, or if it's a 4-3 base where you have two defensive linemen or two interior linemen, two exterior linemen, what we got used to seeing last year. But if Ohio State does lean into that 3-down look, a guy named CJ Hicks, not a guy named, we know him, he's been in the program for forever, but CJ Hicks has been kind of rumored to be on the edge. We're kind of working out as a defensive end. And I think, Kev, that could be really interesting for Ohio State to see how they're going to use him, not at the linebacker position, which we may have been expecting, but up front rushing the quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, I think they need to get him on the field. I think that's what they're saying to themselves. Because I think Arvell Reese must just be a better linebacker. That's got to be what it is, because you don't move a guy from linebacker if he's going to be your starter. I think they want to get both of them on the field, and if push comes to shove, it'll probably be Arvell over CJ, and that's why they want to move him to this stand-up, high tower type.
Yeah,
Bud Dupree,
TJ Watt-esque
type guy who stands on the edge. The Micah Parsons. Too many names, too similar. Micah Parsons on the edge that just comes off and makes life hell for these tackles that are used to bigger guys that bull rush, instead of having some strength, having the flimberness, having the quickness to dip up under those arms, get around, make a guy miss, and then still be able to run it over when the guy's like, all right, I got this. I'm going to be back on my heels. I'm going to be waiting, and then just get absolutely earshotted.
So what's that, Kev? Talk about it from the perspective of an offensive tackle, right? You've been in this position a number of times, I'm sure, when you all game long, maybe you're going against a bigger guy, right? Maybe you are going against Caden Curry for a quarter and a half, and then it's 3rd and 9, and you see a guy like CJ Hicks who's just in a 2-point track stance, right? And hey, I'm getting speed off the edge. Obviously, there's an advantage to knowing that, and this has changed. I'm speaking very generally here, but there's an advantage to knowing you're going to get a speed rush. But he's still a super athletic guy. Like how does a lineman's mindset change when they see maybe a smaller framed guy, but guy who they know is going to try to win with speed?
So when you're going up against like a bigger guy, you want to try to get your hands inside, get him in his chest, lock him up so it's harder for him to move. When you're against a small guy, you want to punch him right in the mouth as hard as you can to knock him off balance. That is absolutely 100% what you got to do. Going up against Baron Browning, Jonathan Cooper when I was there, they were so quick, they were so fast. The only way to stop them was with a powerful punch and to make contact, because they can time it up when you're about to hit. They'll spin and you'll whiff completely, and then you look like Bambi on the ice, legs split apart, and your quarterback is bent into a C because this 4'5", 4'6" guy who should be playing linebacker just ran through the quarterback like it was a truck going through corn in a Christopher Nolan movie. I mean, that's just what it was. It was crazy. I mean, that's just who they were.
Yeah.
They're just so fast. Like, that's the beauty of Nick Bosa, Joey Bosa. They had that speed with the power, with the size. That's why they're such freaks. But I mean, Baron Browning's making millions, signed a second contract. Jonathan Cooper signed a second contract. I mean, there are a need for these guys in the NFL. And if I'm CJ Hicks, I am learning everything I can from Larry Johnson and implementing this as quickly and as much as I can, because the other thing you can do is you can go 5 across, simulate pressure that you're bringing all 5, and then drop him back. Drop it back into a cover 3, cover 4, and then break off the other end, and you're like, okay, wait, we're going to match it up, and then you got 3 guys one-on-one on the other side, not knowing what's going on, and then it's just your tackles in no man's land, or you drop him and bring the corner. Like, there's so many different things you can do with a guy that has his athleticism.
It's an amazing point by you, because, you know, that was the big thing that I think spoiled's not going to be the right word, but I'm using it anyway. Ohio State fans were spoiled by how good this defensive line was, right? That's one thing that always kind of goes under the radar, especially the interior, right? Teams couldn't run the ball against Ohio State because Tyleek and Ty Hamilton was just stonewall in the middle, and then it allowed Jack and JT to either pin their ears back and try to go get the quarterback or play good run defense. And that's really going to be where Ohio State either separates itself next year when you're talking about replacing this group, or like takes a step back and you see like, oh, maybe we did have it really, really good, and there's still some development left to go for some of these younger guys. But all in all, it's going to be really important, and that's where up front is going to be where Ohio State is going to can make the most impact, right? The new guys can make the most impact up front. Excited to see where guys are, how they fit in, and we're going to get our first taste of it during spring ball. We're also going to get our first taste of the actual base defense that Matt Patricia is going to want to run, right? What are they going to be in for the first day? How are they coming out? What are they majoring in? And what's it going to look like for the new coach here? So you mentioned a guy just a little bit ago, Arvell Reese, right? He's going to be called upon to replace Cody Simon. I don't think it's going to be called upon to do it in like a leadership role, because nothing's going to do that. Nobody could do that. And that responsibility is going to be on Cody Simon. But all signs are pointing to the Cleveland kid getting his chance at the linebacker position because all reports out of Columbus is that this dude's a freak. He's got everything it takes to be the next great Ohio State linebacker.
I mean, yeah, he's a freak. I don't know how else to say it.
Something in the water up here, bro. Something in the water up here.
Let's call a spade a spade. Look what we're pumping out up here.
Yep.
I mean, another great Cleveland kid just made his way down to Columbus. Cody Haddad, shout out to Nation. Draymond Jones looking for a new home right now. Another Cleveland guy just out in Seattle. Wouldn't mind watching him play some games maybe in Chicago next year. I think that'd be a good fit. Maybe the Eagles. But getting back to these Buckeyes, I mean, it's just going to be an interesting dynamic. Like, Cody Simon was a freak, but I think, like, in terms of leadership and composure and how much the coach trusted him, how smart he was, Arvell's a freak in a different way. Like, this guy, imagine Cody but faster and can jump a little bit higher. I mean, I'm assuming, I don't know their 40s, but like this kid just looks different, and I'm real excited to watch him play a lot of meaningful minutes this year. I would say him and Caden Curry are the two I'm most excited to watch play a lot more this year.
Yeah, 2024, his freshman year at Ohio State, just 18 tackles, 43 total tackles, but 18 solos, a half of a sack, no stats in the secondary when defending passes, no interceptions, no PBUs, but that's fine. Got some tick in the national championship game against Notre Dame, and like we said, from Cleveland, went to Glenville High School, so going to be really cool to see 20 out on the field and seeing what he can do to shake things up, because it's going to be really important. Whoever fills those shoes of Cody Simon is going to be called upon to do a lot. Have really big responsibility there in the middle of the field. So it'll be exciting to see what he can do. Now, going one step back to the secondary, Ohio State's going to be replacing 3 guys in the secondary: Jordan Hancock, Lathan Ransom, and Denzel Burke, all 3 of which played pivotal roles on this team at some point in the last couple of years in the program. Denzel Burke, a guy that, especially on this show, we may have questioned a number of times, but showed up every single week and ended up being pretty darn good for Ohio State and put together one hell of a career. Lathan Ransom, a guy who became, one of those spiritual leaders of this team, one of those guys that you could rely upon to be in the right place at the right time. And also, he came with a punch, dude. He would come and hit you, let you know he was there. Jordan Hancock was more of that typical post defender. He was going to be deep, keep everything in front of him, but still really, really important. So replacing those 3 guys in the secondary is going to be huge. But there's going to be 2 that stick around. Obviously, Caleb Downs and Davison Igbinosun. Both guys not only made major impacts on the team the past last year for Caleb, the past 2 years for Davison, but are some of those leaders in the secondary there. So replacing some of those other guys is going to be really important, Kevin. There's a couple guys who've gotten some experience even last year.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to see some guys. I think you mentioned him, Aaron Scott Jr. He's making some waves. Number 2 corner in, I think, the country last year. Number 1 player in Ohio. Not last football season, but the one before. He's a redshirt freshman, or I don't know if he burned his red shirt or not. Different conversation. My mind's going a million miles. And obviously, you got the young freak Devin Sanchez.
Yeah, that's the one, man.
You keep hearing about him. I mean, I'm excited to see how they utilize him. I wouldn't be surprised if you move Aaron Scott into the slot corner position and have Devin Sanchez and Jermaine Matthew out. Patricia's a magician. Who knows? Maybe he'll play 8 corners. I don't know. If they can tackle, why not?
Well, dude, I'll tell you what, man. Okay, so this is going to be, we're going to nerd out on football a little bit. But if you go and they go with that 3 down front, right, where we were talking about, where it's that base 3 and then you got 4 linebackers, okay? Then one of those guys is a stand-up edge, right? That could be CJ Hicks. That could be somebody. But that's when you get into those dime package looks, what they call them, when they have 6 defensive backs on the field. And if you're going to do that in a world where, let's say you're playing Oregon, and Oregon's going to try to spread you out, best of luck to you, man, because every receiver you have who are supposed to be the best athletes on the field, we're matching them with equal to better athletes everywhere. Slot, outside, inside, doesn't matter. Having these weapons, man, is going to be a game changer for the Buckeyes.
I mean, it is. Like, you think about it. Like, imagine having guys, which it worked last year, but imagine having the confidence to have Caleb Downs and Lathan Ransom last year. Now it's going to be in Hartford, maybe. I don't know who the new safety is going to be. Imagine having the confidence that those guys don't need to cover anybody. They can just have free reign over the top, and that's their job. Because I think that was kind of the problem last year. Not problem, but maybe it was the defense they chose to run. But, like, having the freedom and having the trust to be like, hey, CJ, you're going to cover the tight end if he goes out for a pass. Or you're going to cover the running back if he goes out for a pass. If he doesn't, green dog and go get the quarterback. Like, and then you can have all those other corners covering. I mean, you have two. Let me just paint a picture. So you got 3 down linemen, and then you got CJ Hicks. Whoever the 3 down linemen are, you probably have Jaden McDowell in the middle. You probably have Caden Curry and Jackson
Kenyatta,
at the end.
probably. Yep.
Kenyatta Jackson at the end. So then you go bring them, and then you bring CJ on a green dog blitz if he isn't covering the running backs. So then you end up bringing 4 at the end. You have Sonny Styles covering the tight end if you need it. I mean, you probably will. Or Arbel Reese, if he's a better cover guy. If we're going to the dime package, you bring Arbel Reese in, he covers a tight end. Then you have the rest of the cornerbacks covering the three other linemen, the three other wide receivers, and then you have both safeties over the top just wreaking havoc. I don't understand how you stop that defense if you're going to try and throw the ball. Like, it doesn't make any sense to me.
The response from the offensive side would be, hey, we're going to run it. And like, if that's the case, all right, guess what, Caleb, we're just going to move you into the box just like we did last year. And now you have four linebackers in the box up front. And you're like, I don't even know. You don't even know what you can do. There isn't going to be many good options there. But Devin Sanchez, a guy that you brought up, getting a ton of hype. If you haven't heard the name, take it, Google him or go on or Twitter or whatever. Look him up. He can play. He's going to be a game-changing guy. He posted a picture the other day that he already gained 20 pounds this offseason. Like, he's beefing up, getting ready to roll.
The Tate Martell thing.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Tate Martell posted a picture 6 months later, and it was just him with abs after a workout.
Yep. Were you the one taking the pictures?
No. I mean, I was cool taking it. Was just, we made so much fun of him for that.
Yeah.
I thought it was cool. Tate texted him after he left, and then I got crickets back.
Got ghosted. Hate it when that happens. Hey, new number, right?
There.
Yeah. A name we didn't hit on, Jermaine Matthews. Won't spend too much time, but Matthews was a guy who you actually got a lot of meaningful snaps for Ohio State last year. Was important when Denzel Burke was kind of in and out of the lineup dealing with injury. Matthews came in and played in his place. So we're gonna get out of here on this. Our last topic of the night. The pressure is on Matt Patricia to be great. Now, I think it is for two reasons. The first is because you're replacing Jim Knowles, who was great, right? Had a really great season last year. Last 2 years really were really, really good for Jim Knowles. But the second reason for me, the one that is a little more concerning on my end, is that he just hasn't done college football in 20 some years. Like, this isn't the pros, right? These guys, they're young kids in some instances. You got to teach them how to, grow a lot. There's going to be a lot of growing up that needs to happen. So I'm really interested to see how he handles it. But ultimately, the pressure is going to fall on him to get all these new guys right, and get them playing the football that is the standard at Ohio State.
I mean, yeah, I don't know if it's blind optimism, but I have a lot of optimism in him. I think he's one of those weird guys that is cool when you're talking to him, but then when you talk football, like, he goes to another level, another plane, another dimension. I mean, you hear about him talking about that Seahawks game. He had like 300 plays that he had to whittle down to like 100, and that was just the day before when he had to whittle it down again to like 40 for the game. Like, it was because you do run the same play on defense a couple times. Hey, let's run cover two. Let's run dime cover two again. Let's run that 4-6 bear look with a cover three attached. But I mean, you shout out NCAA for letting me run that.
I was wondering how many you were going to go through here. Great.
No.
Engage 8 or what?
Cover two man is my go-to for almost anything. Dime cover two man. But no, it'll be interesting. I think he's going to do well. I do. I mean, I think that this is kind of where I don't think he's a head coach. Maybe he will be again one day, but I think it's similar to Chip Kelly, Chip Kelly was good in college, went to the pros, and not to say Patricia was good in the pros. He just went to take over a Lions team that was failing, and it didn't work out, which will happen. But and then he went back and became an OC. Don't even get me started.
Yeah, that was weird.
In New England. But I mean, that's something that I'm just like, I think this guy's going to be able to do the job. He's got big shoes to fill with Knowles leaving. I think as long as he doesn't make every other coach mad, I think he'll be good. Yeah,
it's going to be something to keep your eye on. And there's going to be some growing pains, I'm sure, with a bunch of new faces everywhere. But I do think that this team has the skill, has the talent, has the want to go get it done and continue pick up right where they left off in 2024. So all that gets kicked off next week when the Buckeyes come back to Columbus and get spring ball rolling. And we're going to be right there along with them. We're normal scheduled programming, but more football specific stuff next week, which we're excited about. Kevin is going to be traveling the world these next couple of weeks. So we're going to be either some shows with just me or some shows some different types of shows. You'll see here, like Friday, we're going to rerun an old film review, which I'm really looking forward to getting that back in, getting a little football on the screen for you guys as we're working our way through the month of March here. So, Kev, any final thoughts as we're getting out here tonight on the podcast?
Speaking of March, don't even get me started on the ref show we saw in the Cleveland State game on Monday. That was incredibly disappointing, to say the least. No, I'm excited. We got basketball coming.
We got Buckeyes tonight.
We got Buckeyes tonight. I forgot it was tonight. And then we got March Madness coming. Great time of year, dude. Always remember if you do partake in the gambling side, or be responsible. I don't know why I don't think it's going to be a blue team that wins it this year. I just don't. Duke might be good, but I don't foresee.
We're betting colors.
Come on, a blue team. Blue bloods came from college basketball because they were so good. I have no idea. We'll see what ends up happening this year, but I'm excited to watch some of these. I've been the last month or so been watching pretty religiously. Had the ups and downs. I had Maryland when they lost to Michigan State, but then I also had Arizona earlier where Caleb Love, or I think that was hit a buzzer beater half quarter to send to overtime, then ripped 3 threes in overtime to win the game. It was awesome. So I've had the highs, I've had the lows. Let's get the Buckeyes right. Talk about highs and lows this basketball season. Holy. But it's interesting. I'm excited to see what March brings. Just not another Oral Roberts debacle. Let's just make it through the first round this year.
That was a round of applause. That was impressive. You just went through everything from November through March here of college basketball. Yeah, dude, this week specifically, like everyone loves, and I love March, the start of the tournament next week, but this week specifically is my favorite. The conference championship week is my favorite because you get the lower conference teams, some of those smaller schools. They're competing, right? They're playing against teams that they match up well with, and you're getting the big dogs coming in next week, or excuse me, at the end of this weekend here, which that's fun to look forward to. But my favorite part is that it's not the end, right? You know that this is kind of the appetizer for the meal next week, and so this is my favorite one. Favorite part of the year. So I don't know who might go ahead.
No, shout out Drake, Nebraska, Omaha, and Wofford for getting their job done and doing what they're supposed to do. I can't believe the refs robbed Cleveland State of an opportunity to make it to the Horizon League Championship. This has nothing to do with anything that I have on FanDuel or anything like that.
It's only
This is purely for the love of the game, for the sport. These kids deserve better.
We're getting out of there on that. Like the page, like the video, subscribe to the channel, follow on Twitter. Appreciate everyone hanging out with us. Send Kevin a buck. He needs it. He obviously had a tough one last night. No, appreciate everyone hanging. Go ahead.
Infuriating.
That's what it is, man. Awesome to look forward to here. It's going to be a fun couple of weeks, and thanks for hanging out with us tonight on the Buckeye Breakdown Podcast.